Hey, my friend, welcome and thanks for joining me today. We're talking today about time. And one of the disciplines that I've seen in successful creative entrepreneurs is how to discipline their time. Do you find yourself being ran by your time? Your calendar is out of control. You're out of control. You feel like you don't have any parameters on your time, and everything, whether it's a kid's soccer game and taking a conference call and setting up, going to the bank, like all of these initiatives that are in your life are literally just bleeding and running into each other. As a entrepreneur and as a leader, as a person, like even just as a parent, as managing your home, which I think all parents are owning bed and breakfast because you're pretty much operating that. But when it comes to managing your time, I learned a great tip I want to share from one of my mentors, which is actually mastering your time. So instead of like time management, like I'm just going to manage it, I'm going to master it. So there's a few things that I've adopted in terms of my disciplines, and I would love to help provide you the tools and strategies to live life on purpose. That's what these episodes are all about. I want to help you win. I want to be in your corner. And these are just little life hacks, little systems and little tools that you can put into play on a daily basis. It's just going to make your life run better. If I told you that your car could perform better, go faster, and have more horsepower, I think you'd be a little bit interested. But here we're talking about life. How would you like to have your life contain a little bit more horsepower? Would that be of interest to you? So if that's the case, today we're going to be unpacking that. We're going to talk about a few items here. We're going to be talking about the way that you can use your time. We're also going to be talking about some half days, but we're also going to be talking about the 80-20 principle. So first, let's look at the way that we're going to use time. Time we all have, okay? That's one of the things that we all possess. And here's what's really unique about what we all possess. We all possess the same amount. And there's a lot of argument against that, such as, oh man, that's not true. I have to go work an 8-hour day, then I have to come home and I have to deal with the kids and I got to take them to practice and boom, 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 boom. Right, I get it, but we still are on the same clock and the same calendar. We're all operating on the same exact calendar. So we need to let go of that idea that we don't have the same amount of time. That is totally false and that's a lie. And if you continue to do that, you will completely be a victim of your circumstances. If you continually compare yourself to others when it comes to your time and saying that you don't have the same amount of time, you are living as a victim of time and circumstances. So today, turn yourself in, let go of that entire idea and that lie that you're listening to, renounce it, get it out. Now let's download the truth. We both have the same amount of time. You have three options with your time. You can, right, spend it, you can waste it, and you can invest it. You can spend it, you can waste it, you can invest it. So when I'm, as an entrepreneur, especially because your time is so valuable, I basically had to say, if I'm going to go stand out the easel and create a brand new piece, if I'm going to go to a meeting, if I'm going to go have lunch with somebody, if I'm going to go do consulting, if I'm going to get on a plane and go speak, if I'm going to sit and write a book, if I'm going to sit and watch TV, if I'm going to go play golf, all of those questions of life, and when you look at the time with your kids and you look at the time with your spouse and your family, etc., are you wasting it, spending it, or investing it? You have two options with your time while you're here on earth. Put it into the shredder or put it into the vault. You can invest your time, you can waste your time and just let it go down the drain. And we all know, we've sat there on social media, we've sat there on video games, we've sat there on things that just numb and tune us out. We've been in situations where you're finding ways to comfort yourself because life is too daunting, that the ways that you're comforting yourself are damaging yourself. They're damaging to your health, they're damaging to your soul, they're damaging to your well-being. I would love to help create a life with you that didn't require needing to escape from. What would life look like if you didn't have to get on a plane and go somewhere else to escape from the life that you have? What if every single day could actually be on your terms, looking the way that you want it to look, and you being in the driver's seat of mastering your time. You can waste it, you can invest it, you can spend it. So when I have that filter, is what I'm doing today going to go into the shredder or going to go into the vault? Is everything that I'm doing today going to be a deposit into the greater calling that God's provided for me, and I'm contributing to that calling and building assets, whether that's in relationships, I'm building relational equity. Am I building relational equity with my kids, relational equity with my wife, best days with my kids, date nights with my wife? Probably one of my favorite things, to be honest, is going out to dinner with my favorite people, friends that we're doing life with and collaboration with, and just putting wind in their sails. I love blessing people and doing that. That's so much fun. It's one of my favorite things of doing. Investing in relationships. Relationships are your number one asset. So what would life look like if you could spend your precious time investing rather than wasting? So we're going to go into the other points that we're going to talk about. The 80-20 principle and the idea of half days. But let's first start about the 80-20 principle. A wonderful book, 80-20 principle, radically changed my life in terms of my productivity and my disciplines, in terms of what that does in my time mastery, but more so in my gifting and how the actual things I'm doing on a daily basis, my activities, what I actually spend and allocate my time doing, what's producing the greatest result. The 80-20 principle says 20% of what it is you do actually produces 80% of the results. 20% of your clients provide you 80% of your revenue. 20% of your products create the bulk of your revenue. 20% of the clothes in your closet are actually what you wear 80% of the time. The 80-20 principle is an incredible principle. Distilling down where I'm wasting. And if I was to chart on a piece of paper, and I want to encourage you to do that, discipline yourself to do this constantly. What's the 20% of what I do on a daily basis, even in my job and in my craft, that produces the 80% of the results that I'm looking for? Could be revenue, could be meaning, could be impact. What's the 20%? And when you distill down that 20% gets sweet. And that 20% gets sweeter. But it takes discipline to get there. Because nobody's going through the exercise of strategically living on purpose. They're letting life dictate to them what happens. They don't say no. They don't have the power to set healthy boundaries in terms of the parameters in their life. They don't say, hey, my meetings are only happening on a certain day per week. Or I take calls on a certain time per day. Or I'm off tech for only twice a day. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Third point is half days, which is probably one of the most wonderful disciplines that has been shared with me through my mentor, Bob Shank, and he's just fantastic when it comes to productivity. Half days are fantastic. Look at your day like this: 6 a.m. to noon, noon to 6, and 6 to midnight. Okay? That would still give you 6 hours of sleep. But you can shave off a little bit here and there. That's going to be that can allow you to kind of move that around and shuffle that around. But in essence, you're looking at 3 days within a day: 6 to 12, 12 to 6, 6 to 12. Now here's what's really interesting about that. I have found it's not the amount of time that you need. You don't need more time. You have it. It's just how you're using it, how you're allocating it, how you're leveraging it, how you're spending it. So if you're to say, I'm getting up at 4 a.m., 4:30, 5 o'clock. I'm going to get 4 or 5 hours in before the family's even up and before we even start the day. I'm then going to go into my day and I'm going to work the 80-20 principle, even if I'm working at a job somewhere else. And I'm going to try and take what I would normally do in 8 hours and do it in 2 hours. And so you basically hacked and done your productivity to where you've been able to get a couple hours of work that actually made up for about 8 hours of work. Now let's talk about this for a minute. If you work at a job, what this can look like. Let's say you walk into your supervisor's office, your boss's office, whoever, and you just say, "Hey, I'm becoming more and more productive. I'm noticing that I'm able to get a full day's worth of work in about 2, so I'm able to do about 5 days of work in about a day, and my productivity is going through the roof." And I would love the opportunity to be able to work from home, producing the same exact amount of productivity. If my productivity goes down at all and my quotas aren't met, and if my sales aren't met, my numbers aren't hit, if I don't hit those marks, then this wouldn't work. But could we do an experiment over the next 60 to 90 days that would allow me to work remotely from home and still produce the same results? What's going to happen, and this is a wonderful technique that you can learn in the 4-Hour Work Week. Ferris does a wonderful job of describing this as a life hack if you're trying to escape the cubicle and get out on your own. The whole idea is if you're really looking at building an entrepreneurial side of yourself and your life and you want to launch a new dream, you can have this corporate job, but at the same time you're slowly but surely building this, this other initiative alongside and building that into your life to where you're running them in parallel to the point where this has overshadowed the other, whether that be the amount of time that's allocated to it, the amount of income that comes from it, to where you're then able to cut the cord. But some like to keep both moving. The only way that this is going to happen, building your new initiative alongside, is the time to be able to do it. So you can either do this before work or after work, okay? Or do your work so well at your job that you've been able to allow yourself to be able to work remotely on your own time. So you see, here's the deal. If you implement the 80-20 principle, you're going to notice that in your life, you're wasting time 80% of the time. You're wasting your time. It's just literally just going down the drain. But if you're strategic and you start allocating and start measuring and start looking at where you spend every single minute of every single day, you're going to notice that you completely burn time on social media, which is another hack I want to give you. I only check email and social media 12 and 4 p.m. I have to. It's one of the biggest disciplines I've ever done in my life, but it produces the greatest results. And the dividends are worth it in spades. Social media, unless you run your own company, is literally nothing but a time bandit because social media is a tool. If you're selling your products, if you're sharing your story in terms of how you're allocating it to bring people into a bigger conversation, social media is a tool to connect with people, but ultimately to on-ramp them to an opportunity, a bigger opportunity. But if you're spending a majority of your life just literally having a one-way conversation, literally spending your whole day on a device, checking your email 40 times a day, touching your phone, they've done studies over 4,000 times a day. You literally touch the screen of your phone over 4,000 times a day. We're not going to get anything done if we're on a device that isn't producing results in sales. You follow what I'm saying? So 12 and 4 is my check-in times. I look at that 6 to 12, 12 to 6, 6 to 12. Those are 3 half days. I start saying, hey, my job, typically if I work for somebody, requires 8 of those 18 hours. That means you have 10 hours, 5 on the front, 5 on the back to be able to do something else. So the excuse of I don't have enough time is an absolute lie. Stop thinking that way. If your job requires 8 hours, yes, you might have a commute on the front and on the back, but you've got 10 throughout that day to be able to allocate, spend and invest with your family. Spend and invest on a dream that's something that you want to build. So let's review. We talked about the idea of the 80-20 principle. We talked the idea of half days, 6 to 12, 12 to 6, 6 to 12, okay? And then we also looked at the 3 ways that you're going to be able to use your time. That's wasting it, that's spending that, that's investing it. You get to choose what that's going to be like. Whoever controls your calendar controls you. A couple things I do also, on my email signature, I have a little Calendly link. Calendly is a wonderful app that you can go and implement into your life. If anybody wants to book a call with me or make a meeting with me, it's already on my email signature. I can put it in a text message. Hey, if you want to book a time with me, and I've already set the spots in my calendar where I'll take a call, where I'll take a meeting. It's not whenever, however. Do you know how long it takes or how many email dialogues or text messages it takes up just to set up a meeting or a date or a phone call or a lunch? And then you just ask yourself this question: do I say yes to what I say yes to? Or do I put a filter and say no if it's not going to produce major fruit or relational equity? I had this conversation with somebody the other day that said, who do you pick to have lunch with, and is every single lunch and conversation that you have an investment? And I said, quite frankly, yes, because I'm not going to take time away from my wife and kids and other initiatives that I've made commitments to and dedicated to to go and get off track and get sidelined because the demand for having lunches and dinners is nonstop. So I want to go have dinners with those folks that are going to be an investment, and it's going to be fertile, and it's going to cultivate relational equity. That's even if I go and play golf with people, I'm building relational equity with like my closest two buddies, right? Like that's a hug. That's a time of refuge and a time of refilling my cup. That's an investment. It's not just going to escape. No, I'm going to get filled and edified by our relationship and edified by our talks together. So I just hope that this is a major challenge to you today in a great way. Like it kind of pokes the bear a little bit, gets us out of the comfort zone. But this is the only way that we are going to strategically live life on purpose. I've said it before, do you want to be a human existing or a human being? You get to choose how your time is going to be invested. You get to choose what you want to work on and how you want to work on it. You get to choose who you say yes to in life and who you spend time with, investing relational equity and building that relational equity. Leave me a comment down below. Hey, if this has impacted you, please do me a favor, share it. Share this with as many friends that you know that want to live life on purpose as well. Get the word out, leave a comment down below. Thanks for doing life with me. I love doing life with you. Have an amazing day.